Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we have invited you here today to react to a number of issues raised in recent time to your attention and the attention of the public. A number of developments that have taken place over the last few years under the NPP government. At one of the numerous press conferences, I refer particularly to the one held on Thursday, 25th June 2020, addressed by the Regional Communication Director and the Regional Chairman of their party. At that conference, they raised issues over so-called failed promises made to the people of the Volta region by the Akufo-Addo-led NPP government. The approach was one of pick and choose, just to satisfy their propaganda purposes and pass judgments, marks of bias. That's marks of bias. And this was supposed to be an objective assessment exercise. In the first place, we wish to state that as a party in government, we have resisted the temptation to either be detracted or seduced into unnecessary and unproductive debate and propaganda war, simply because we have the people's mandate to deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, the NDC does not appear to be a political party to be taken seriously, particularly in the Volta region. They have taken the people of the Volta region for a ride for far too long. It must be dawned on them by now that the people of the Volta region are discerning and can no longer be hoodwinked by tribal bigotry or emotional politics. When it comes to development projects relative to the Volta region, the NDC do not deserve any moral right to question the performance or achievement of the new Patriotic Party, particularly in the Volta region. That is not to suggest the least that the Volta region does not deserve its fair share of development under the NPP government. But the fact remains that the NDC, which enjoy absolute and unmatched support from the Volta region, have nothing substantial to show to the people for their support. The NDC and its antecedents ruled this country the longest since independence. Former President John Mahama had 8 good years before handing over to Nana Addo some 3 years ago. One would have expected the NDC to assess its development impact on the Volta region particularly. Mahama's 8 years impact on the Volta region before proceeding to assess the 3.5 years of the Akufo-Addo administration. But let's confront the issues raised during their theoretical assessment exercise undertaken last Thursday. They raised 17 points or promises they claim the NPP made to the people of the Volta region, which have not been fulfilled. Now let us take the issue one by one. Their first issue was the promise to build a landing site and a storage facility at Keta. And truly, our manifesto mentioned Keta, Cape Coast, Adan, Jamestown, Teshi, Winneba, among others. The program is ongoing and Keta will soon take its turn. However, it is instructive to note that it takes a while to execute this project because of investment interest and procurement processes. If it was that easy, the NDC would have done it, but they did not even have the intention, let alone the plan. Number 2, closely related to the first issue of their propaganda spin on the construction of the Keta Harbour, our manifesto truly mentioned 2 new harbors at Jamestown and Keta, and that is just exactly what is going on. Work has started in Jamestown and Keta will soon take its turn. Truth be told, it does not take 3 years to build a harbor. Historically, it takes decades from conception to execution. However, in the case of Keta, the process has been fast-tracked, but for the COVID-19 pandemic, which has stalled most of the processes, particularly the foreign participation, we would have seen major strides. As we speak, a lot of progress has been made. The legal framework has been laid, declaring Keta port area. A CEO has been appointed to spearhead the laying of the administrative, operational, and procurement structures and processes. The result is the speedy process we have seen in the takeoff of this all-important project. So the NDC propaganda that the CEO has been appointed for a non-existing port is not only disingenuous, but also mischievous. 3, on the important issue of the new host sport stadium, it is refreshing that the NDC had made a turnaround to accept its existence. Earlier on, the National Communication Director, Sami Jeffy, on Good Morning Ghana, a Metro TV talk show, denied existence of such a project. Even before Sami Jeffy's claim, Honorable Ablakwa, NDC claimed that not even a bare land for the site for the stadium was identified. So, were they aware of the stadium project ongoing on Ho-Adaklo Road? We expect the journalists to have educated and offered them an excursion to the project site. It is informative to know that since the late General Achampong reconstructed the whole sports stadium in 1970s, it was only during the previous NPP regime that seats were fixed in that stadium. It is not also surprising that it is under Akufo-Addo led NPP regime that the Volta region is witnessing a new sports stadium. A new sports stadium complex and also an astroturf at Howe, all of which are at various levels of completion. 4, at the last Thursday conference, they also scored the NPP 0 for not building a modern theater in the Volta region because it was mentioned in our manifesto. But our manifesto specifically stated this project will start from Takrady, Tamale, Kumasi. Our manifesto only envisioned that every region must have a regional theater of a large seating capacity to promote the creative arts sector of the economy. The NDC should have shown us their plan or foundation stone for any of such projects under the creative arts. On the promise of affordable housing, that was number 5, while the Volta NDC accused the NPP of a failed promise to the region, they also admitted that the site has been acquired along the Ho-Adaklo Road. The truth is that the ministry is collaborating with services sectors to provide services such as electricity, water, road to the site, ostensibly to attract the needed private investment interest. The good news is that water will soon be extended to the area under phase 3 of the 5-district water supply scheme, an Austrian-funded project for which Parliament has approved £11.5 million. But for the COVID-19 pandemic, major distribution works would have been underway. Another positive development which will impact the whole affordable housing project will be the re-sealing of the 90 kilometers whole Aflau Road, which work is already underway. Sadly, the NDC failed to show any record or intention of any such project for the Volta region in Mohammed's 8 years at the presidency. 6, the NDC talked about broken promises by the NPP and claimed that there is no 1D, 1F in the Volta region as was promised by the NPP in 2016. In a press story early this year, addressed by Honorable Akufo-Addo, he stated that the NPP only gave stimulus packages to 3 companies. On the concept of 1D, 1F, the truth of the matter is that the NDC either does not understand or are being mischievous. The concept is supposed to be a public-private partnership, PPP, program. The pathetic thing is that elsewhere, this 1D, 1F is being championed by their colleague MPs in other regions. What do they have to show? It does not only take government to establish factories, unlike other MPs who are championing the cause of 1D, 1F in their constituencies. What efforts have the NDC MPs from Volta region made to take advantage of this laudable government policy? It will interest the NDC and Akufo-Addo to note that right in the constituency, North Town, right in his constituency, North Town, the Volta Star Tester Limited, which was John Testers, was collapsed under his regime, under their regime, and has been recapitalized and is back on its feet, giving jobs, livelihood to thousands of his constituents. 7. Their 11 point has to do with the disbursement of $1 million per constituency promise. On this matter, the NDC and Okujoto Ablakwa did not only get it wrong again, but also have been mischievous. While they accused the president of failed promises, they were most deceptive. Are they not aware that the $1 million was not going to be carried to any constituency without a project at hand? What efforts have they, as our MPs, made to come up with a project to assess the fund? That notwithstanding, are they not aware that the one ambulance per constituency were purchased from the $1 million? Are they not aware that the institutional toilets have been built from the $1 million? Are they also not aware that the One District, One Warehouse project are being built from the $1 million? All these are being executed under the Ministry of Special Initiative. 8. There are 9-point raised issues with the non-availability of an industrial park as envisioned in our 2016 manifesto. The NDC, in its assessment, admits that the program for the establishment of industrial park is laudable and the way to go in our industrialization efforts. But we cannot realize this vision without availability of litigation-free lands. And government, in consultation with chiefs and landowners, are still working hard to secure a land for this project. And we are reliably informed that Adaklo chiefs and landowners are ready to support this project. 9. On the issue of new district hospitals, the NDC rightly invoke our constitutional promise to either strengthen one and build new ones where there are none. This is exactly what is ongoing. Existing hospitals are being refurbished and re-equipped. Uncompleted ones are being completed, and new ones are going to be built where there are none. The NDC must understand that challenges and new demands in the health sector will definitely affect some of the projected projects in the manifesto. The NDC's simplistic understanding of infrastructure and delivery is laughable. They only believe that the construction of buildings called hospitals or cheap compounds are all about health delivery. They do not see investment in other components of health delivery system as worthwhile investment. For example, the conversion of the Volta Regional Hospital, Trafalgar, to teaching hospital status with new equipment and retooling as any investment in health delivery. Today, Trafalgar is a referral hospital, and people will no longer travel to Kolebu or 37 to assess their referral needs. This is what touches us as a region. Another example is the heavy investment made in the drone delivery system in the health sector, one of the largest drone delivery systems in the world. But the NDC characteristically does not see this as any investment in the health sector, not even the procurement and deployment of over 300 ambulances fitted with all modern intensive care gadgets. Single largest deployment since our independence. But the NDC would not accept this as any investment in the health sector, not even a restoration of nurses training allowances, clearing of backlog of trained nurses and other health workers since 2010 as any investment in the health delivery system in Ghana. Their only obsession is with the refurbishment of Greater Accra Regional Hospital and University of Ghana Medical Center, which was even completed under this government. You cannot build a hospital where there are already existing hospitals, or private, public or private. And in the Volta region, almost every district, except the newly created one, has a hospital. And what we are seeking to do now is to strengthen the existing ones And efforts are also being made to start new hospitals in the newly created district as directed by the president. Number 10, relative to health is the issue of water, and our manifesto mentioned potable water for all. But the NDC is an interesting group of people. In 2016 thereafter, they have always claimed that they have provided every community and household with potable water. Today, same group of people are saying that 3 years of NPP in power, it is very pathetic, President, and I quote, it is very pathetic, President Akufo-Addo has failed in this promise as well. The Volta region, we all know, is synonymous with water. There are many towns and villages that do not have access to potable water, unquote. In this case, who failed the Volta region? Is it the NDC 8 years under Mahama or the NPP 3 years under Nana Akufo-Addo? Sometimes their way of reasoning can be described as reverse logic. They have also peddled falsehood and propaganda when they claim that 5 district water supply scheme with a treatment plant at Ajiduma is a project abandoned by the NPP. It is a palpable falsehood and an attempt to throw dust in the eyes of the people. The phase 1 and 2 of this Austrian-funded project was completed under the NDC, but they could not secure funding for the phase 3, which is the distribution stage. Today, the NPP government has secured a loan facility of £11.5 million and approved by Parliament to undertake the phase 3, which is the distribution of 5,000 gallons of water a day through 5 districts, including Central Tongue, North Tongue, Adaklo, Agotima, and Ho. But for the COVID-19 pandemic, this project would have been ongoing. Our members of Parliament from Volta region are fully aware of this. 11. Another important issue that the NDC toiled with during their so-called honest and objective assessment conference was the issue of education. The only thing the NDC found worth assessing was the issue of provision of free Wi-Fi to schools. They haven't found anything else, policy or investment worth assessing. This jaundice and selective amnesia of the NDC has been their stock in trade. All the heavy investment in the educational sector under the government escaped their lenses. The restoration of the teacher training allowances escaped their lenses. The successful implementation of the free senior high school policy and all its associated benefits to parents and families also escaped their lenses. But we will not begrudge them for their political bias. The beneficiaries of the educational policies and interventions will be the best judges when the day of reckoning comes. 12. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, there were some other issues and some frivolous and some very frivolous that our friend raised that we could easily have ignored. But for the records, who mentioned them? For example, the issue of availability of premise fuel. It's not an issue that is debatable. The fact that there was an isolated case of diversion by individuals does not negate government efforts to making premise available to our official folks. 13. On the matter of the Eastern Corridor roads, the NDC had no moral right to assess the commitment of NPP. Is it not pathetic and misleading for the NDC to make the claim that the current government abandoned the Eastern Corridor road? The road which everybody, including you, the media, knew had been abandoned since the death of Atta Mills. The facts regarding the Eastern Corridor road are that, 1, President Kufuor started work on the Eastern Corridor road and completed the KJB to the purposeful stretch, 54 kilometers, before the NDC came to power, and started making all the noise about Eastern Corridor roads. The late Atta Mills also actually started some work from Esikuma Junction to Espeki, but following his sudden and untimely death, the NDC under Mahama abandoned the project and funding and equipment diverted to Fufusu Soala Road in his home region, the northern region. Not even when they brought portions of the Eastern Corridor roads and Akoko roads was any serious work done in terms of funding, priority, and attention. As usual and typical of the NDC, it was in 2016 election period that they mobilized some Chinese construction firm onto the road to create a picture of ongoing works. This is the stock in trade of the NDC, and this has been repeated over the period. And this is how they have always treated the Volta region. Ladies and gentlemen, it will interest you to note that most of the critical roads are not only receiving attention, but also contractors are back on site. Example, Sokode Ho Dual Carriage, the Eastern Corridor roads, Fudume Huawei Road, etc. Today, the NDC admits that the 90-kilometer Ho Aplawu Road was widely and severely damaged during their time, but they did nothing about it. It is being worked on today. Kliko Aplawu Town Roads, which started under the previous NPP government and abandoned during the 8 years of Bahama NDC, are receiving attention today. Procurement processes have been completed. It is needless to talk about one district, one warehouse, when they themselves have admitted that work is ongoing and can mention Hohwe, Ho, and Ketunov. The rest of the districts will take their turn when the site has been procured and the necessary procurement processes have been completed. The true story of UHAS is that it was incubated in the former President Kufuor's nurses and doctors' flat at mile 45 Ho, registered nurses auditorium, Ho residency annex, and some makeshift structures at the then Volta Regional Hospital, Trafalgar, to start the university. They can only be credited for the administration block. This is the group of people who have bastardized the free SHS policy on the grounds that there were no enough infrastructure in place for its commencement. But they could start a whole university without infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Nana-Addo's led NPP government has completed a number of permanent structures, including a laboratory for UHAS. And as we speak, a number of infrastructure projects are ongoing. Crediting John Mahama's stewardship with the building of UHAS is another grand deception. Ladies and gentlemen, in the area of educational policy, implementations and projects, the NDC cannot match the NPP's record in the Volta region. For example, in respect of infrastructure expansion, the previous NPP government model schools projects can be found in almost every district at the time. For example, one can mention Adidoma SHS, Pando SHS, Maoko Girls SHS, Boima SHS, KJB Asato SHS, Krachi SHS, Chito Awudoma SHS, and the list continues. In addition to these model schools, one can also mention very significant infrastructure projects in almost every SHS and provision of school buses and pickups. Examples of schools where these projects were done are Maulis SHS Go, Computer Lab, Georgia Penny SHS, Assembly Hall, Assembly Kumdani Hall Complex, and Girls Dormitory. Ola Girls Dormitories, St. Paul's SHS, Denu, 18 units, 1-story classroom block, Vata SHS, 12 units, 1-story classroom block, Wovenu SHS, 12 units, 1-story classroom block, Bishop Heyman College, dormitories. The NDC concluded the assessment exercise with the shameless mention of unprecedented achievement in the Volta region by the Mahama-led NDC government. And the only project they could mention were largely uncompleted projects like the University of Health and Allied Sciences, UHAS, water treatment at Pando, community senior high schools, Ho Airport, Ho Market. But these are misleading and disputable. A water treatment plant in Pando was laudable, but not enough for a whole region that has given its unflinching support to the NDC over the period. For example, today, the Nana-Addo-led NPP government has secured 11.5 million pounds and already approved by Parliament to undertake phase 3, which is the distribution of water under the 5-district water supply scheme to 5 districts aforementioned. In addition to this, the NPP government has secured a Spanish grant of $3.78 million under the water supply improvement project, support led by Ghana Kingdom of Spain debt swap program for development, 18 water supply systems to 35 beneficiary communities across 4 districts with estimated 95,000 people. The distribution of the system is as follows: Adaklu 11, Agotimo Jofi 4, Ho Municipal 5, Ho West 15. What is worthy of note is that all civil works have been completed, but for the COVID-19 pandemic, supply installation of plants would have been completed. Another controversial credit to Mahama is the issue of the E blocks. The NDC have made the claim time and again that they also completed 10 E blocks and left 15 uncompleted, but failed to mention where they are situated in the Volta region. It must be noted that so-called E blocks, which they claim to have completed, were World Bank founded. The Mahama-led NDC failed to raise the needed local resources to do any meaningful work on this project. Today, Nana-Addo-led NPP government has raised substantial resources locally to complete most of these projects. In addition to the ongoing works on the E block, there are thousands of intervention projects ongoing in almost every SHS in Ghana, including those in the Volta region, to ease congestion and bring the double track system to an end in the shortest possible time. Needless to mention the provision of furniture, textbooks, and other teaching materials to all schools across the country. On the whole aerodrome, or so-called airport, the NDC claimed that the NPP government failed to operationalize the airport. It's a complete falsehood. It was not even an airport. The fact was that the NDC was constructing an aerodrome and created the impression before the world that they were constructing an airport, which was commissioned uncompleted in 2016 for election purposes. In any case, it took the Nana-Addo-led government to complete this facility and paid over 70% of the cost. However, through to expert and industry players' apprehension, the economic viability of this project is yet to be realized. On the issue of the whole central market stores, the NDC shared the stores to themselves even before the project was completed, and this generated anger among the traders who took the matter to court. The case is still pending before the court. However, the project may remain a white elephant for a long time to come because the design does not satisfy the cultural needs and commercial practices of our people. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, having dismissed the biased assessment and false claim of the NDC, I wish to state that a lot has happened in the past 3 years of Nana-Addo-led NPP government with supersonic speed that could escape the attention of many. For the avoidance of doubt, let me mention a few of our flagship programs and policies that are incontrovertible. One ambulance, one constituency, revamp railway sector, expansion of SHS facilities nationwide, retooling security agencies, NAPCO, planting for food and job, restoration of nurses and teachers training allowance, recruited over 15,000 teachers, teaching and non-teaching staffs for SHS, employed 60,000 youth in afforestation program, 1.5 million people added to the school feeding program, both more than 80 warehouse under district warehouse initiative, employed over 55,000 nurses, doctors and other health professionals, increased public sector salary by 12%, increased minimum wage by 11%, implemented the world's largest medical drone program, increased capitation grant for basic schools by 122%, etc. These and many other policies and projects have been executed in a relatively short period of 3 years. One can therefore say, without fear of contradiction, that 4 more years for Nana to do more for you is non-negotiable. In spite of all this, the NDC, our main opponent, have tried to create the impression as though nothing has happened and have been misleading and misinforming our people in the Volta region. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to use this same platform also to respond to the infertile tirade. Let me take it again. I wish to use this same platform also to respond to the infertile tirade and tribal effusion spewed out by the regional chairman of the NDC, Mr. Henry Amatepi, at the same press conference held by the NDC last Thursday. You all listened to his unrestrained tirade in which he leveled accusation, insult, verbal attacks, and threatened everybody, including the presidency, the president family, our chiefs and public servants, journalists and members of the NPP and their families in the Volta region. Listening to Amatepi, our initial reaction was that he might be under the influence of some illicit substance. Others maintain that it is his way of life and might be suffering from some sort of acute personality disorder. Some others ask for sympathy for him. But I wish to use this opportunity to send a clear message to Amatepi that our democracy has matured and there is no room for tribal bigotry, murderous accusation, and threats to individuals or group of people. His unprovoked attack and threat of death or war against people in their lawful employments or members of other political parties other than his will not be countenanced under any circumstances. And this warning is without prejudice to the accusations and allegations leveled against people who might be contemplating a legal action against him. The deployment of security personnel along unapproved routes leading to Togo is an enhanced operation to secure the closure of the borders to forestall illegal immigration of foreigners and the spread of coronavirus. It is instructive to note that our assemblies and government have been spending huge resources on quarantine and testing of all such illegal immigrants. The enforcement of the closure of the borders is in the public health interest of our region and people and has nothing to do with the impending voters registration exercise. Amatepi must be told that his pronouncements threaten the peace and stability of Volta region more than any lawful security operation in our region. We challenge him to show proof of ethnic cleansing or unlawful removal of airways from civil and public services of Ghana. He should also show proof of removal of airways from security services along our borders. Otherwise, such irresponsible, insightful pronouncement must be withdrawn. He is old enough to know that the consequences of such dangerous and guided pronouncements. The Volta region is not at war with NPP, and the NPP government has not declared any war against the Volta region. It could only be the figment of his imagination and propaganda intent. It is also not his business to instruct our chiefs or direct the media as to how to do its works. After mercilessly accusing them of bribe from the government, his claim socialist background or orientation might have accounted for his confusion and paranoia in the democratic environment. He must be reminded that Ghana is not a socialist state nor an appendage of Cuba. His so-called signal or call on Voltarians to rise up in arms is but a vain threat and just loud noise of desperate and spent political force. He will be the first casualty in any event of violence induced by him and his cohorts. Amatepi must be reminded that the Volta region is not the property of the NDC and will never be. When does it become the law that every citizen of the Volta region must be a member of the NDC? Or when does it become a crime for any Voltarian to belong to any party other than the NDC? Ghana is a unitary state, and our fourth Republican Constitution guarantees freedom of association and choice. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, is it not sad and infertile for Makafui to say that because the University of Health and Allied Sciences, UHAS, is cited in the Volta region, it has become a sole property of the Volta region? Since when does it become a norm that when the university is located in the region, it should be headed and controlled by citizens of that region alone? Makafui and his cohort must be told in no uncertain term, UHAS is a public university and remains the property of the Republic of Ghana because it was built by Ghanaian taxpayers' money. Elderly and confused people like Makafui, who are still wallowing in tribal bigotry and self-delusion, must be reminded that Ghanaian, and for that matter, Voltarians, cherish peace and will continue to will not continue to contest those who are living on the bonuses of nature to undermine the peace and plunge us into chaos. Thank you very much for your attention. God bless you all.